Okay, welcome back to Live Impact News here on the 13 News Now app. We are joined this afternoon by Dr. Eric Claville, our political analyst here at 13 News Now. When we have our election cycles, we oftentimes will see you maybe multiple times in a week, but we haven't seen you in a while as we're now eagerly awaiting the midterms coming around. How have you been, Eric?
Pretty good, but we know that here in Virginia there's an important election every year, so I'm anxious to be a mainstay on this station and others. So thank you so much for having me.
And elections is what we're diving into. Elections and the 2020 election in particular have long been sort of a focal point to even maybe could be described as an obsession of President Donald Trump. The 2020 election, of course, the one that he lost to former President Joe Biden.
Right.
It's something that he has focused on throughout his time campaigning and now into his second term. Yesterday, he addressed the nation and spent 85% of that address speaking about election interference, election fraud, documents that will be made unclassified, that by his words will reveal information that proves that our election systems aren't secure. Now, on the other side, there's been a large amount of analysis that indicates that this is not information that necessarily proves that, and that a lot of this is perhaps rehashed from some of the claims that have already been made by the Trump administration. Right. So that has been some of the response, especially from Democratic lawmakers. Now, when you heard the speech yesterday, what were your kind of first reactions to what you were hearing?
Well, when you listen to the president, you have to listen very, very closely because there's a lot of things that's being said. There's a lot of his speech that tends to go all around and not focus. But one thing that I did notice about the speech, that it was focused on his voters and the election itself. This was an election stump speech. If you notice in the very first parts of his speech, he addressed the nation and, of course, pretty much addressed his supporters, talked about the bad economy that he was handed, mentioned the illegal immigration, and mentioned how the country was in a very bad state prior to him being elected. But now the country is the hottest country in the world, and his claims, of course, and we're back on top. So again, he was providing this stump speech, these points to his voters, his faithful voters, to get them locked in. And then, of course, he turns to the 2020 election, and then, of course, the election coming up. Now, you mentioned earlier one thing about the 2020 election. The falsehoods about the election being stolen have been not only debunked, but they've also been litigated in court. Many, many, many people have paid the price, both criminally and civilly. Rudy Giuliani, for one, who is a well-known figure in our, not just American politics, but just in America itself. He was America's mayor, city of New York, cleaned the city of New York up, was mayor of New York during the time of 9/11. I mean, just a well-respected across the board. When he picked up the mantra of the election being stolen, of course, they targeted Dominion voting machines, and he, along with many others, lost that battle in civil court and was responsible for millions and millions of dollars in civil damages. Not only that, but individuals that were criminally prosecuted when the president himself held the pep rally in the nation's capital during the infamous J6, what is known will be known in history for centuries to come, when individuals, citizens, on their own dime, flew on their private planes, walked to the nation's capital in order to, quote unquote, overthrow the Congress at the time to stop the election from being certified. Hundreds, thousands of those individuals were prosecuted, and many were serving prison time for their actions, which we noted many saw as being deplorable, many saw it as just being a black eye on our democracy. Of course, there were a lot of things that were happening during that time. We saw members of Congress that were on the floor in the galley, basically fearful for their lives. Many individuals lost their lives during that day. Capitol police officers, as well as citizens, being from the hands of security that were there defending members of Congress. And the president gave them all pardons when he came into office. So the 2020 election, and finally, when you look at the 2020 election results and the studies and independent studies and whatever the case may be that came from that, we saw that there was little to zero. I mean, a very minuscule. I saw one figure of 0.000043% of ballots that were cast that should not have been cast, and that is that's like throwing a tear in the ocean. It didn't make a difference at all, and we saw that President Biden won the election by 7 million votes. With that, still, there are many of the president's faithful that believe that the election was stolen. After litigation upon litigation, study after study, GOP member after GOP member saying that the election was not stolen, you saw him still pushing that narrative. Now, fast forward to 2026 and the midterm election. 2026 and the midterm election is a very important election for this administration. Now, historically, Connor, we find where the party that's in power usually that's in power in the White House loses the midterm election in Congress. And it's because of that 15 to 18-month period of time where the party in power tends to swing the pendulum to the extreme to push their agenda. It happens on both sides. The narrative changes. The American people then start to swing the other way, right? So we find that is happening now. This administration has probably been the most forceful implementer of their policy. Of course, we know with Project 2025, implementing those policies across the board. The most drastic change in our bureaucracy, both internationally and domestically, we are seeing it right now. It's happening right now. And with that, the American people, that when you look at inflation, you look at the economy, you look at food prices, you look at kitchen table topics, those things are really impacting the American people and their dollars, and not being able to afford just the basic things. While those aren't being addressed, GOP members are very fearful of those issues rising to the top and impacting their reelection status. So with that, we find where the president's not addressing those, but addressing these voter issues that he says we have issues in order to galvanize his base and in order to cast doubt upon the election in the event, as he stated, in the event that he or the GOP Congress is not reelected, then the election was quote unquote stolen. So with this, we find that there is a divide within the GOP with his vice president, J.D. Vance, and other GOP members saying that they would accept the results of the midterm election, even if they lose, and even if the Save America Act, which is the president's legislation for voting, registration of voting more specifically, is not passed. So yeah, the president pushing one narrative to his faithful voters, his base. You have his own vice president and the GOP in Congress pushing another narrative, and the economy and persons are still not being able to afford gasoline and food. It's going to make for a very interesting politics and probably a split ballot when you take a look at what's happening across the board.
You know, I will say that as an aside, one day I would love to do a deep dive with you on what it says about the psychology of America or of people in general, that we have this pattern where a party gets into power, no matter which party it is, come the midterms, there's a rebuke to that party. Maybe what it says about our media industrial complex, because it's so interesting how no matter what the party is or what the time frame is, it seems to happen with a few exceptions in American history.
Right.
For the time being, staying with what you spoke about in regards to affordability. Affordability is largely credited as being the talking point that helped the Democratic Party succeed in our most recent election, sure, especially here in Virginia. Yeah. It's something that we heard in the White House press briefing yesterday. Multiple reporters said to Caroline Leavitt, hey, we've been speaking to Republican officials on Capitol Hill today, and they continue to try and shift the focus to affordability, and maybe even there is a question of why is the elections the talking point right now, the 2020 election in particular, when there continues to be an affordability crisis? And beyond the affordability crisis, we have an ongoing war in Iran, and we have just in the last week multiple people shot and killed by ICE in their vehicles around the country. Do you find is there a strategic perspective that favors shifting the attention to the 2020 election? Do you find it surprising that now is the time where this is being so heavily focused on by the administration?
Connor, really one word: self-preservation. This is what the 2026 election is about. The White House staff started to brief, well, the legal division started to brief staff upon what would happen if the Democrats do win the midterm election, which right now every indicator shows that they will take the House, possibly the Senate. Senate will be close, but definitely the House, unless something changes, right? Right now, the Democratic Party, they're also going through their changes within their party with progressives, and then also when you take a look at support for Israel and the like. So, but on the Republican side, in the event that the Democrats do take the House, what you will start to see will be investigation upon investigation upon investigation, which in Congress, they do have that power in order to subpoena power. They have the power to hold hearings, and there is also the power that individuals could be charged and also pursued with criminal charges if they find that there have been a criminal break in policy or rules. So there is that possibility. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what I would say we could see that will happen with this. So again, that pendulum will start to swing, and then you'll start to see a lot of documents, a lot of votes that will be had, that right now the Republican Party under its House Speaker Johnson, they're keeping a lot of votes not from taking place. So if you don't bring an issue to the floor for a vote, then you can't really voice your voice on the issue for the people. But if the Democrats do win, then you'll have a new Speaker of the House, and which will more than likely be the Minority Leader Jeffries, which would be the first African American male Speaker of the House as well. And with that, you'll find where now these committees will be ramping up to subpoena documents, to subpoena individuals within this administration to ask these questions about their actions. So it's about self-preservation. And if that happens, then, and also the president's agenda, it stalls, because now he's able to, the White House is able to dictate their policy through Congress, because of the Republican-led Congress, more specifically under this Speaker, have abrogated their voice, and they're simply rubber stamping a lot of those policies. But right now, if you take a look at what happened in the primary elections in various states, like Louisiana with Senator Bill Cassidy, and Texas with Jim Cornyn, those individuals have been in Congress, in the Senate, a very long time. They got on the bad side of the president, and he lobbied against them, and they lost. They lost in those primaries. So right now, they're not really friends of the administration, and they're willing to speak out and vote against some of those policies that are coming out of the White House that the president wants passed. So right now, we're seeing that the honeymoon period is over, both on the Republican and the Democratic side, and it's going to make for very interesting policies coming up in the midterm elections.
We speak about policies that President Trump would like to see passed through Congress. None have drawn his focus more than the SAVE Act. He concluded his speech by mentioning that the SAVE Act must go through Congress. It is currently stalled out in the Senate. Despite the advantages for Republican numbers in the Senate, it has not been able to pass through that body. Do you see that changing anytime soon? Is this speech a means of putting pressure on Republican senators to come around and make sure that goes through? What do you see as the future of that legislation?
I think it's dead in the water. All indication shows that. Reason being for several reasons. One, we saw the vice president on Capitol Hill a couple of days ago with the Speaker of the House lobbying for that effort to pass the Save America Act. It has passed in the House, but it's stalled in the Senate, and there is no indication that the Republican-controlled Senate is going to pass this landmark legislation that the president wants passed. For the most part, it's problematic. What it wants to do, many states already allow it, have a very secure registration process for their particular states. Now, there are basically the crux of the issue is that the president believes that there are non-citizens that are voting in federal elections. But when you take a look at the data, again, when you take a look at it, very, 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 very few. It's like, again, a tear in the ocean that are voting in these federal elections because it is a federal crime. Right now, especially with immigration policy, you would be hard-pressed for anyone who's not a citizen to actually risk deportation and criminal prosecution voting in a federal election. That is more than likely not going to happen. In addition to that, we also find in various states, they have their process where non-citizens can actually vote. If you're here working, paying taxes, you can actually vote in some local elections and some state elections. It depends on which state allows it. Now, for federal, it's clear across the board. Federal election law covers all states the exact same. So once again, very similar to the 2020 election, that the falsehood that it was stolen, that you had these millions and millions and millions of ballots that were cast in favor of the President Joe Biden or the Democrats at that time that should not have been cast, have been debunked through litigation, through studies, even the most conservative think tanks, and have shown that that was not the case. However, with this, we do find that the pressure upon the Republican senators to pass this is problematic with their states because many states have already started registering voters and also printing those ballots as well. So you will not find that Save America Act being passed at all. You will find that, of course, in the various corners of the internet and social media, you'll find where the president's faithful voters will continue to push this narrative, as the president will push it as well. But for the most part, the data, the evidence does not show what the president is alleging. And from that, the senators look like they are in line with the data and the evidence, and we will have the election without the president's landmark legislation of Save America Act.
And to reinforce what you're saying here, we know that specifically in Georgia, a state that potentially had the most federal scrutiny on their elections after 2020. Georgia did an audit of voter rolls in 2022. They found that fewer than 2,000 instances had occurred of non-citizens attempting to register to vote over the last 25 years, and none had succeeded. And that 1996 United States law makes it illegal for non-citizens to vote in presidential or congressional elections. So that is federal law. Okay, we are just about out of time here. Could we very quickly, I just want to ask very quickly here, the revelation that China has illicitly acquired 220 million United States voter files, and the repeated attention placed on China. When it comes to the data of American citizenry in particular, is this something where foreign interference is going to be something that needs to be reckoned with here in the future, especially when it comes to voting?
Very quickly, we do find where we have vulnerabilities there has been hacking, vulnerabilities in our information in general. So we do find that. The evidence that the president said that he has is nothing new. We've seen that intelligence agencies have produced that over the last 6 years under both administrations. So that's nothing new. And keep in mind, Connor, you as a citizen, you can actually buy voter rolls locally and for statewide. They're open to the public if you want to pay the money for it. So to utilize that to bolster the claims is definitely it's far-fetched in order to, again, give solid evidence that his claim is true.
Okay, political analyst Dr. Eric Claville, always a pleasure to have you here on Live Impact News. We look forward to, as we approach the fall, seeing you more and more here. It's going to be, Live Impact Eric for once we get near November. We certainly hope. But for the time being, thanks for being here with us today. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, as always. Same to you.